video, we're going to take a look at how to face the Paulsen Sicilian, which I believe there was a book called The Safest Sicilian, where this was the main topic. And it's a little bit different than, say, a6 immediately is the con Sicilian, and knight c6 immediately is the Taimanov. So first, get down the vernacular to know what we're talking about. And the Paulsen is the combination of, let's say, both the con with a6 and Taimanov with knight c6. The main feature is with knight c6, immediately there are lines with knight b5. And the Paulsen takes away those variations. But there is a drawback. And as I was analyzing this position for one of my students, I started looking first at the data. And the move that I'm going to recommend here is the third choice, but it's the most principled and the highest scoring. We capture the knight on c6. And what I'm going for here, since a6 has been played, there's no good squares for this bishop. And I want to make it a problem to try to get this bishop out. So d5 being played is the main thing that I need to stop. So e5. And this is best. It scores nearly 60% for white. Now, let's look at what happened in the main game after seeing what's optimal according to the engine. Now, if queen c7 is played, hitting the pawn, we develop and defend. And once we've got this foothold on e5, this will be seen in many king-pawn games that you're looking for the opportunity to go knight e4 and drop in at some point. Well, knight e7 encourages us even further. Knight e4, followed by knight d6. And we retreat the bishop and cover the b2 pawn. And this is considered to be a balanced position by machine standards. But we do have the bishop pair, and that's, to me, got to be preferable in the long term. Where black's likely looking to play a5, bishop a6. I want to try to stop the trade of the bishop, and with this knight on g6, I immediately look at ideas like h4, h5 for ideas for both sides. So back to the main game continuation after e5, bishop b4 was played. Now, I know that main theme that I want my knight to get to d6. But also I know that this is the good bishop. So I considered two moves here. Queen g4, where I'm eyeing the bishop as well as g7, or the more solid bishop d2, which says, hey, if you capture, my pawn structure is not going to be messed up, my bishop's going to be on a good square supporting my e-pawn, and I still have the thematic ideas at my disposal to be able to play knight e4. My opponent goes knight h6, and I said to myself, I really want to get his good bishop off the board. And if you watch the previous video on the model game against the advanced Caro-Kann, you see that good bishop, bad bishop concept. And it's undeniable here that the c8 bishop is just terrible. So if we can get rid of the good bishop that could make a target out of my e-pawn in the long term, I'm going to have a much better position. So I use a move to encourage black to make that trade for me. Doesn't want it. Now I get back to the main theme. Knight e4, looking to drop in. Knight f5, good move. Covering d6, so black wouldn't have to trade off that good bishop. So let's get rid of the knight. After knight h4, I had far more I should say I had a far more optimal way to develop my pieces at this point, with queen e2 followed by f4 with castle queenside. Now, as we've been going through a number of king pawn videos in the channel over the past month or so, it needs to be noted, again, I'm looking to castle queenside and have the most aggressive lines when I'm playing e4. I feel like it's the way e4 should be played. So I know I wanted to play queen e2, but I played bishop d3 first before playing queen e2. And this gives black the opportunity to come close to equalizing with knight g2. I just had no reason to allow this. But my opponent went d5. That encourages en passant, which at the end of the day, black's going to have a ruined pawn structure in every ending. It's not very clear how they're going to attack me on the queen side when I castle, but my pawns are going to roll on the king side. After bishop takes, queen e2, and again, knight g2 check should be played here by black just to make sure I can't castle and have a wall of pawns in safety. It would make the game far more double-edged if knight g2 was thrown in. But black castled, and now with no more opportunity for knight g2, all of my pieces lined up to attack. Opposite side castling positions, they are nasty quick. Bishop e7 is played, trying to stop bishop g5. So, okay, f4. After queen c7, queen f2, hitting the knight and getting ready to support the push of the f-pawn. f5. And after knight e5, not too concerned with losing the bishop here. f6, breaking the defensive structure. Takes, takes. Takes, takes. And my 2300 rated opponent had enough after rook d to g1 check, as queen f6 is going to be checkmate. So in quick review, in facing the Paulsen Sicilian with a6 and knight c6, I strongly recommend this idea with knight takes c6 followed by e5. We just want to play knight e4. We want to get our knight to that great d6 square. We want to really put a clamp on black's pawn structure and let them know they've chosen weird development to get that c8 bishop out. So, a line to consider if you're an e4 player. Hope you enjoyed it. Give me a like, give me a subscribe if you made it this far. Thanks.